All right, rockers and metalheads, let's take a look at 1982. That 82. The year you graduated high school in 82. I was actually just entering high school in 82 as a freshman, getting canned and all that stuff. So 1982, you were probably graduating that year. The top 3 metal albums that came out then. Also, we had Fast Times at Ridgemont High, my all-time favorite movie. Cheech and Chong. No, that wasn't Up in Smoke. Cheech and Chong, Things Are Tough All Over. I think that's my favorite Cheech and Chong movie. But yeah, Fast Times. We had some great stuff in 1982. I remember I was 14 or going on 14 in September of that year. So let's check out the top 3 metal records of 1982, the year you were graduating, or maybe you weren't. You know what I mean? Check it out. Released in March is Iron Maiden, The Number of the Beast. It's widely regarded as one of the most influential metal albums of all time. It definitely marked a debut of vocalist Bruce Dickinson coming in after Paul Di'Anno. Fucking great record. I still jam this almost every day. I just jammed it the other day. Yeah, Number of the Beast. Judas Priest, Screaming for Vengeance. You'd think after British Steel they would come out with this album right after. But no, Point of Entry, which was kind of and then they came out with another metal banger. This was like the first Judas Priest album I ever bought. It was in the Columbia House, 12 cassettes for a penny, and I loved the cover, so I got it just out of curiosity. So it's the first time really listening to Judas Priest as an album for me. But yeah, 1982's Screaming for Vengeance, July of 82. All right, Venom, Black Metal. Can you believe an album like this came out in 1982? And it wasn't even like the PMRC didn't even really come out, and the whole Satanic Panic thing didn't even really start till like a couple years later. But you would think this would have been the thing to set it off, just with that cover alone, So yeah, definitely a great part of metal history. Definitely this album was more credited with naming and inspiring an entire subgenre of metal, which is that we know of today as black metal. So yeah, so definitely made its mark. Venom wasn't really black metal sounding, but they inspired the actual genre. Hell yeah! Well, there you have it, 1982's class of 1982. The metal albums, the top 3 that came out that year. A couple notable mentions. I'm going to throw in Kiss. Creatures of the Night, because that's when they kind of went metal, even though Kiss was always more of a hard rock band. Scorpions Blackout, another I mentioned them a while back, saying, "Oh, they're not metal." Well, they pretty much started getting more into the metal aspect here on this album. I think even the album before, which was Love Drive or Animal Magnetism, especially with the Zoo. I look at it this way: if you're in going to the record store in the early '80s or even mid '80s, or whatever, and there's a metal section, you're gonna find Scorpions Blackout in that section. You won't find Van Halen. That's why if you notice, Van Halen wasn't mentioned on when I did 1980 or 1981, even though those were massive records that came out. But because I think Van Halen will always be just hard rock no matter what. I don't think they ever really were considered a metal band. But Scorpions definitely, like, they crossed over, I believe, from hard rock to heavy metal around this time. So they got into that club of metal. Except Restless and Wild, that came out too in '82. I'd say this album probably is the birth of speed metal. I'm sure there was probably bands doing it before. Obviously Venom was more of extreme metal. But I'd say except with Restless and Wild, Fast as a Shark, songs like that. That's a speed metal song, and it might have been one of the first. So yeah. That was your class of 1982. We're going to move on to 1983 coming soon. Yeah. Horns up. Peace out. Yes.